What if what you fear you're actually serving, and it's not just in your thoughts, it's in your body, training you to hold on when Yahuwah is asking you to trust? Because in Exodus 16, they had enough, but something in them still reached for more, and the moment they tried to control it, it began to decay.
Dala, Tabunah. Welcome back to my Omer journey. Today, we're going deeper into the neuroscience of our survival. To understand the path to freedom, we have to understand this automatic system that's dictating how we breathe, how we feel, and how we react. The autonomic nervous system, or ANS, is like the internal operating system of your house. It controls everything from your pupils dilating to your heart rate without you ever having to think about it. It has two major branches. The first is the sympathetic nervous system, or SNS. Think of this as the gas pedal. It's for acceleration and mobilization. The second is the parasympathetic nervous system, or PNS. Think of this as the brake pedal. It's for deceleration, rest, and healing. When you breathe in, your gas pedal taps on, SNS. Breathe out, your brake pedal activates, PNS. This is why when we seek calm, we focus on long, slow exhales, because we are literally stepping on our biological brake to induce self-preservation. Pair this information with what we learned about the vagus nerve, that electrical highway between your brain and your organs, and we'll get a fundamental understanding about how the autonomic nervous system reacts to safety and how it reacts to threat. Today, we are discussing the polyvagal theory. The polyvagal theory, developed by Dr. Stephen Porges, explains how the autonomic nervous system, that automatic system, organizes your physiology, meaning the actions you physically take in response to a stimulus or environment of safety or threat. Basically explaining why, for example, if you see a snake, you run without needing to think about it. It declares 3 stages of hierarchy, which means whichever section within this mini-branched vagus nerve is switched on, it has governing authority to command your actions. The first complex is ventral vagal complex, or VVC, described as social engagement. The second is sympathetic nervous system, SNS, the same one responsible for inhaling, and is described as fight or flight. And the last is the dorsal vagal complex. This is DVC, the oldest part of our parasympathetic nervous system, described as shutdown. When I say oldest part, it's because you'll see old and young as terms in neuroscience used to describe the timing of how our brains are developed in the womb. They develop from the bottom to the top. The first part of our brain that develops and is online or active is also referred to as the primitive part of our brain, or reptilian brain. So let's think of the ventral vagal complex, VVC, as the mediator of shalom, mediating between the vagus nerve responsible for managing stress and maintaining social connection. When your system senses a threat, it activates 3 lines of defense. Line 1, ventral vagal complex, VVC. This is our social engagement system. It controls our facial expressions and our tone of voice. Remember, this electrical highway that is the vagus nerve connects to or innervates our organs. So practically, let's use our ancestors in Exodus 16, whose nervous systems are still in survival mode after Yahuwah delivered them from Egypt. Now they're in the wilderness hungry. Hunger, or fear of starvation, acts as the stimulus. Their system registers a threat because we need food to survive. An electrical signal shoots through our highway to communicate, I'm hungry and can't get food. Call for help. The message is delivered to our cranial nerves that control our facial expressions and voice box, causing our face and tone to shift and call for help. That's Exodus 16:3, where they're accusing Musha of bringing them out there to die. I want to make mention that under non-threatening stimuli, like your friend smiling at you, this same electrical signal would cause you to smile back. Let's induce some empathetic compassion here and put ourselves in our ancestors' shoes. Unhealed from oppression, they are hungry, having to walk a long distance, carry whatever they left Egypt with, and any other daily functions that require energy. So every time they walk, carry, or do daily functions, there is a constant reminder that they are hungry. For us, this is like nonstop calls from bill collectors when you don't have money to give them. Each message is a reminder of lack, inducing stress unabated. If you don't know how to calm the stress, it inhibits higher thinking from your prefrontal cortex that allows for you to learn how to budget and plan so that when they call you, you answer because you have a plan. We, just like our ancestors, have to learn how to endure the discomfort of uncertainty by understanding the character and way of Yahuah. Okay, stay with me. We're walking through our lines of defense. The first line, ventral vagal complex, VVC, hunger strikes, and we imagine the fear of starvation. The VVC activates and we call for help.
Help me!
If no one answers our call, the system shifts and the sympathetic nervous system takes over. It signals the adrenal glands to dump adrenaline. Your body prepares to fight or run. For our ancestors, we see this in Exodus 16:3. If only we had died in the land of Egypt, which shows them in fight response, attacking Musha with words because the adrenaline is telling them they have to do something to survive. Of course, we know Yahuah fed them with manna, but for the purpose of learning the progression of how our nervous system processes threats, we'll continue on with the example of hunger, but within the context that food is still not available. So fighting and running have failed. Now, our dorsal vagal complex, or DVC, takes over. This is the ultimate emergency shutdown. If you can't fight or run, your body hits the kill switch to protect you. Your heart drops, your gut stops, and you experience constipation, or in some cases, it empties and you get the poop scared out of you. Go zombie-like, disassociate, freeze, and collapse. Earlier, I mentioned hunger as the stimulus, and I want to emphasize that for the Israelites, our ancestors, the uncertainty wasn't the real stimulus. Their nervous system didn't just react to an empty stomach. It reacted to the fear that the stomach would stay empty. The same goes for the example of the bill collector. Your choices are responses to the fear that you will forever be oppressed, impoverished, and enslaved to debt. What we fear, we serve. And your nervous system is responsible for the behaviors that serve the fear. Stand in context. All of our nervous system's lines of defenses have been activated, overwhelmed, and we remain active in the dorsal vagal complex, firing electrical signals to shut it down, making us disassociate, become apathetic, and extremely fatigued. Survival mode then turns into trauma. As Dr. Bessel van der Kolk points out in The Body Keeps the Score, trauma happens when this system fails, when you are immobilized and cannot escape. Trauma is a disruptor. It breaks the smoke detector in your brain. You might stop running when you should go, or freeze when you should fight. Your neuroception, which is your ability to distinguish real danger from safety, is broken. Trauma is the thief of resilience and rest. Synchronicity between your gas and brake system is no longer balanced. We'll have moments of being all the way left, pressing the gas full throttle, then all the way right in full possum mode, playing dead. Okay, so you might be like, okay, I'm with you, sister. What I'm supposed to do? The conclusion of the matter, the solution, is physical safety and vagal loading. The journey of healing requires experiences that restore the sensation of physical safety, but it also requires loading. Think of your nervous system like a muscle. If you've been in a dorsal shutdown for years, your vagal tone is weak. You have to rebuild it through progressive loading. We see this perfectly in Exodus 16. The Israelites just left years of dorsal bondage. They were stuck in a slave brain, terrified, hypervigilant, and wired for scarcity. When Yahuah gave them manna, he gave them a vagal loading exercise. In verse 19 it says, and Musha said, let no one leave any of it until morning. For a person with trauma-induced scarcity, not saving food feels scary and doesn't make sense, especially when they're looking at manna in abundance. But what they couldn't see was the way that it was like a weightlifting session for their souls. Yahuwah was forcing them to lean into the discomfort of trust. Every morning they woke up and found manna, their vagal muscle grew stronger. He was training their nervous systems to stay in a ventral vagal state of safety by giving them a witness, a word of proof, truth, to combat the battle within as the old slave brain rose up with a contrary word of panic. He wasn't just giving them food. He was rehabilitating their capacity to trust that they would be strong enough to stand at the foot of the mountain at Shavuot, yearning to draw near rather than fearfully wanting to escape. The manna was Yahuwah's word made physical into food to be consumed. Marry this spiritual truth with some more science. The food we eat acts like a molecular key that can turn genes on or off without changing the DNA sequence itself. This is known as epigenetics. If your DNA is the instruction manual for your body, epigenetics is the highlighter that marks which pages to read and which ones to skip. To eat manna was to eat the instruction. To eat the instruction was to take only enough for the given days and then see or be proven that you had enough. This process, to those who did it, instructed their nervous system to trust Musha, whom they could see. Remember, the remedy to trauma is safety. Once they woke up, still safe, bellies full, and more manna within reach, it was supposed to be a reminder that grounded them to the present. But unfortunately, that slave brain was still being fed by another word. On the flip side, obedience during the journey to Mount Sinai will have allowed them to see, experience, come near to, and be intimate with the one instructing Musha, Yahuwah. This is why we count the Omer. This is also why Musha kept admonishing them that they were complaining against Yahuwah, not him. Now, context is critical here. Yahuwah declares in Exodus 16:4 that he is intentionally testing them to prove that they walk in his law and commands. Bearing in mind that the solution to trauma is progressive loading of your vagus nerve. Consider the ways Yahuwah loaded their nervous system. The threat, the horse and the rider. The safety, Yahuwah casting them into the sea. The threat, bitter water to drink. The safety, Yahuwah purifies the water by having Musha throw a tree into it to make it sweet and drinkable. Each of these trials were experiences inducing a threat to their system and then an intentional response from Yahuwah to show them that they are safe. That is the loading. All while being physically removed from the land of their captivity with a cloud by day and a fire by night to consistently remind them, you are safe, I am with you. So let's look at the Hebraic understanding of salvation. Yahusha. It is the work of destroying the enemy and securing the afflicted ones to the promise. They were experiencing the process of the necessary steps to be secured and saved spiritually as well as physically. This is why context is important when we are using our ancestors' witness for our learning. Our transition into the truth has produced for us a spiritual salvation meant to show us how to endure until the physical salvation is manifest. The enemy of deception is actively being conquered and we are returning to covenant, hence the returning to observing the appointed times. But unlike our ancestors in Exodus 16, we're still in the land of our captivity. We aim to master the spirit of the law that produces discernment on how to enact the physical representation of what we no longer have the ability to replicate. I don't own a lamb I've raised, but I can go to Publix and buy one for Pesach. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So what does that have to do with compassion? A lack of knowledge or intimacy with Yahuwah's compassion removes the ability to have compassion for yourself. No compassion for self equals no compassion for your neighbor. Unaware of Yahuwah's character, the way he made you, and the effects of sin on our biological makeup, we end up confusing the words of an unrighteous master with the word of Yahuwah. unable to see past the bitterness or original harm, stuck in survival mode, distracted and deceived. The deception, you will always be hungry. Your belly will never be full. Always oppressed, always sick, last, and never enough. So you might as well do what makes you happy. Seek convenience and never apologize for looking out for you and you alone. Lies from Sheol. But necessary to acknowledge those lies so you can understand the source of the battle within you. The conclusion of the matter, Yahuwah didn't take the Israelites straight to the mountain because their nervous systems couldn't handle the fire yet. He took them to the desert to train. If you feel the load today, the urge to hoard or to hide, understand that it's just a rep. You aren't failing, you're growing. Here's a call to action to help you. What is one manna moment you've had today? A small glimmer of safety where you chose trust over panic. Journal about it, meditate on it, or comment below. And let's encourage each other while we out here hitting these vagal reps. Next time, we're going to look at the symbolism between the vagus nerve and Yahusha the vine, as described in John 15. Also, how specific Hebrew prayers actually act as biological brakes for your nervous system. Trust me, you don't want to miss the next steps in this healing journey. It's so good. So, if this bridge between science and scripture has helped you understand your own trauma today, share this video with somebody else who is still stuck in Egypt. And follow for more Science of the Soul. Okay, wait.